Alright, there's some of the hops that I've selected. I had these pre-packaged actually. These are hops that I grew last fall on my own hop vines here around the side of the house. I grew them, picked them, dried them, and then vacuum sealed them. This one is 66 grams, which is about right for the full 60-minute boil for what I'm looking for in this beer for hop bitterness. Once that comes to a boil, which it's getting pretty close right now, then we'll let it boil for a few minutes, then add the hops. And it's looking like we're getting pretty close to a boil here. Another couple of minutes and we should be there. It's just starting to roll a little bit there. Okay, we have a good boil going here now, nice and vigorous. And I'll just let that go for about 5 minutes and then I will add my hops. Okay, here we have 66 grams of my own hops, Holler Tower, batch 2. And I see I'm getting a slight boil over here. So I am going to stick my cold paddle in there, which should solve the boil over problem immediately. And then I will go turn down the controller just a little bit. Okay, the problem was I had turned it up to 33%. Now it's back down to 31%. I hope that will be sufficient. In go the hops, and that's going to smell really terrific real soon now. This is 66 grams of batch 2 of my own Holler Tower hops from last year. And I will add some more later on in the boil. I'll just stir that in, let it break up. There we go, you can see it's starting to break up. And I set my timer, it's 5 to 5 right now. And I'll let these boil for about an hour. Okay, that's been boiling away for 40 minutes now, and now I have 30 grams of my Holler Tower hops. This is batch 1 from last year, the first batch that I picked and dried, and I am going to add that to the kettle now. When you add your hops early in the boil, it gives its bitterness to the beer. When you add it in the 20-minute range, which is what it is now, 20 minutes left in the boil, it will give its flavor to the beer, and I will make another 30-gram addition right at the very end of the boil, which will give its aroma to the beer. Okay, and right after my hop addition at 20 minutes, I set this up so that the outlet of the kettle goes into the pump, and from there it goes through my wort chiller and back up and right back into the kettle again. And I just recirculate boiling wort through my wort chiller for 15 to 20 minutes. And the reason I do that is so as to sanitize, or actually in this case sterilize, the inside of the wort chiller. Otherwise it is extremely difficult to keep that thing sanitary because you can't see inside of it. So this is what I do, a little trick I learned from a friend of mine to keep the inside of my wort chiller sanitary. To circulate boiling wort through it for the last 15 minutes or so of my boil. Oh, and by the way, this is a little stainless steel clip that I picked up about 2 months ago at IKEA. When I picked it up, I didn't have this in mind for it, but as soon as I set this up just now, I thought of that little clip that I had bought and ran right out and got it, and it is perfect for holding my hose in place. It actually holds it right in here pretty snugly. There's a little loop there, and it holds it really well. I used to have problems with my hose slipping when I left it like this, and I couldn't leave it unattended. Here's what the IKEA clamp looks like, basically just like that. And what it's for is for hanging pots. This is where we hang our pots and pans and our other digital cameras, as you can see. And I haven't figured out something to do with it yet to hang from there, because we normally use the S-hooks. But that's what I originally bought it for, and it turns out it's very useful in my brewery. Okay, the hour is now up, so I will make my last hop addition and then go in the house and turn off the power. You can see when I started recirculating through my chiller, I had to increase the power from, I think it was at 29 or 30%. Had to increase it a bit because of all that exposed copper was cooling things down quite a bit. And I'm just going to switch off and I won't need that again until actually I'll clean out the kettle and so forth, and heat up some more water in it just to clean out the brewery with. So I turned off the power, but I'm going to leave the pump recirculating for about another 5 minutes. The reason I'm doing that is basically to let the hops settle down to the bottom. You saw in one of my videos I've got a filtering screen at the bottom of the kettle. If I keep recirculating now through here, it will tend to filter out the goop. The hops actually act as part of the filter as they sink to the bottom, and will help filter out goop basically and keep it in the kettle rather than having it end up in my fermenters over here. The fermenters have been fully sanitized now and they're ready to go. I don't know if you can see that properly, all those chunks floating around in there, not the hops but the other chunks. That's called your hot break. That's protein breaking out of solution. That's a good thing. The more hot break you get, that protein will stay behind. It will not end up in your beer and make for a clearer beer. Okay, this is recirculated long enough. You can see most of the hops have sunken away from the surface. Things have calmed down considerably because the boiling action isn't mixing it up anymore, so I should have a pretty good filter bed on the bottom. So I'll turn off the pump. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this hose and stick it into one of the fermenters, but you can also see I've got the garden hose going into the wort chiller at this point. Normally I have another garden hose as an outlet here so I can run the output way over to the side of the house where it's not going to cause any trouble, but it seems that hose is currently frozen under a foot of snow still, so what I'm going to have to do is just let the water discharge here. Whoops, and I forgot to turn this one on here. Hold on. Okay, let's try that again. I've got this one turned on, the lever came off of it. There's my outlet water. The wort is going to flow in right here beside where this water is coming out. The hot wort will flow in here. The water is flowing in this way, and the cooled wort will flow out and into my fermenter. Okay, the pump is going. You can see that I have wort flowing here. That wort is cooled. Yes, it's cooled. Let me double check that. What does this feel like? Yes, nice and cool on it feels nice and cool on the outlet side here, but on the inlet side, ouch, 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 that burns. On the outlet side, it's nice and cool. So, we've got nice cool wort flowing into there. It's good to let it splash at this point to aerate it. That's good for our yeast. And we have the outlet water coming out here. Not an ideal situation, but actually the warm water coming out of there will help melt some of the snow that I want to get out of here. So in this situation, it's not a bad thing at all. And we'll just let this take place now. It will take about 20 or 30 minutes to fill those 2 buckets from the kettle. Normally I don't run the pump. I have the bucket sitting here at the bottom of the step, right about where that big pile of ice and snow is. But obviously I can't do that at the moment, so I'm using my pump to drain it out instead of gravity because I have the buckets up here. And that's it. Now I'm putting my yeast starter into here, mainly to know that I get it split up evenly between the two. I've already put a 500 milliliter container of yeast and split it 250 into each fermenter, and now I'm going to do the same with this other 500 milliliter. Alright, 250 into that one. A little bit tough to do this with only 2 hands, but it's not impossible. And 250 into this one, which is filling up nicely. We'll see how much. You see, basically it's running pretty dry in there right now. We are down below the elements already, but there is still a fair bit of work to be pumped out. The pump is chugging away there nicely. So we still got a little bit more to go in there. I'll put the lid on. We already have about the same amount as what's in this. This is probably about 18 liters, so My total output today was a little bit lower than my normal output. I would guesstimate probably 40, 41 liters, maybe 42 by the looks of it, somewhere in that range.